movies, one band, The Beatles. It's been confirmed. This is something that we had talked about on the show a lot previously as this news was dropping, but it is confirmed that Sam Mendes is making 4 Beatles biopics about each Beatle: George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, and John Lennon. Not only is he making 4 movies, not only are they all coming out in the same year, guys, they're all coming out in the same month, April of 2028. Those unfamiliar with Sam Mendes, he directed films such as 1917 and Skyfall. Paul Mescal will play Paul McCartney in After Sun. He's from After Sun. Harris Dickinson from Iron Claw will play John Lennon. He was also just in Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things and Fantastic Four will play George Harrison. And Barry Keoghan from Saltburn and Dunkirk, I don't know why I pulled that. Banshees, yes.
Banshees of Inisherin
will play Ringo Starr. They'll all release in April of 2028, and if you follow the Hollywood Reporter article and just look at what people are saying about CinemaCon when Sam Mendes was there and talking about it, he described it as the first bingeable theatrical experience. I have a couple thoughts on this, Nicholas. One, as a movie fan, love this idea. I imagine there'll be, since there's 4 weeks, it'll be one each week maybe, I don't know. I'm a fan of that. That's very cool to me. However, I don't know if that's the best financial move. And if they do this, they have to keep these in theaters for 180 days. You gotta let these breathe in the theater and give people time to go see all of them. It'd be really funny if only one did really well, like the John Lennon movie did well, but the rest of them didn't. That would be interesting. But it is a cool experiment. I like the idea of this experiment. And I think that just doing it just shows that Sam Mendes is willing to try new things and kind of push boundaries for filmmaking. I think that's cool in itself. Again, I question how successful it can be. I hope it's successful. It'd be amazing if this made money. We can get more cool things like this. I just am not sure if that will be the case. We'll have to see. I do want to do one more comment on the actual casting. I think it's great casting. I've seen some pushback on the casting. I think it's fake hate. I think this is an excellent cast. I'll watch these. I look forward to it. I'm fascinated by it more than anything. But Nicholas, give me your thoughts, buddy.
No, I think I'm with you, right? Just the scheduling alone and the coordination to be filming 4 movies, I would assume pretty much simultaneously with overlap of when they're interacting and everything.
Yeah, they're going to be shooting for a long time.
That's got to be a nightmare, right? But I think the idea of 4 is interesting. My thing is more of is there enough story? I guess I really don't have much of a history on their upbringing, right? So I'm just sort of well, what does a Ringo Starr biopic look like? Because we have these biopics, right? And it's always the Robbie Williams Monkey one and Elton John, and there are always these movies that are sort of these celebrities that we know have had these struggles with drugs and alcohol abuse and everything. And I know the Beatles dipped into the drugs and the psychedelic and everything in that regard, but just well, what is Ringo's did they all have bad upbringings? So I'm just more interested like that. In terms of the casting, I think it's very solid. I don't really see where the pushback's coming from. People like to hate on Joseph Quinn for some reason. Yeah, they're against everything he's done since Stranger Things, yet everyone loved him on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I think he's a great Johnny Storm casting, first and foremost. I'll just say that right out the gate. Barry Keoghan, I think, is a great choice for Ringo. I think he's a weird little guy, and so is Ringo. So I think that's great. And as for Harris Dickinson, I saw him in Triangle of Sadness. I don't think I've seen him really in much else.
Okay.
So we'll have to see in that. I have not seen Iron Claw. I've not seen Baby Girl, but he's got the height and the look. I think they all look very good. I can see it. Paul Mescal, I think, is a great actor as well. I really liked him in After Sun. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was really great in Gladiator too. A lot of people thought he was miscast in that role. I didn't personally have an issue with him.
Same.
But I mean, yeah, I think it's are we going to see diminishing box office returns? Is it going to be 1 week, 1 week, 1 week? Are we going to have to, are people going to actually go out and see it? Do we have to have watched them in a particular order? Is there going to be some cross-threading where it's oh, I didn't see the George Harrison movie. And what order do they release them in, Because I would say John and Paul are the big ones. Is it sort of the ramp up where we start with a Ringo and a George? and just sort of take it from there. I think that would be interesting to see.
Switching to you because I got to switch out my camera battery. But
Yeah, you're
something
good.
a question I want to add to you, and this is something that I heard, and I'm not sure if it's true, but I've heard that it's possible that all four movies are the same story, just told from each of their perspectives. Would that also interest
Ah,
you?
I could see that. What's that called? Like the Rashomon style, where it's like everyone has a different perspective of the same storyline.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that could be interesting. Like I said, I am curious to see how the box office does perform over each one, right? A competition at least, see which Beetle makes the most. Because I mean, everyone has their favorite Beetle. Mine's Paul personally. Um, but I also would say Paul's the biggest one. I mean, John Lennon had probably the most interesting story. I would say an interesting life, especially when you get into like the Yoko Ono stuff and the protests and everything in that regard. Um, but I guess we'll have to see. I think Sam Mendes is a great choice, though, to direct. I think he has a great track record thus far. It's just it's an ambitious undertaking, is really what it is. Um, and I'm curious why all of the month. Why not go like maybe every other month, and he kind of gets 6 months of it, 8 months of it. Over the year. They just
Mhm.
worried about like you're like let's just get it out to the people, and then 17 days later they can just watch it at home.
Yeah, well, I think it's part of the bingeable experiment that they're doing, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be a short window. I think you got to keep these. If the experiment is binge it at the theater, you got to keep it in there for a while. You know,
I'm
you have
trying to
to.
find a tweet. I cannot for the life of me locate it. Oh yeah, here we go.
Hmm.
So it was just the New York Magazine on Twitter. Four Beatles, four movies, three British guys, one Irishman. Sam Mendes releasing four Beatles movie, all told from the bandmates' unique perspectives. And then someone had retweeted it, and they said this project is interesting conceptually, but inherently limited by the process of filmmaking. If we're really going to do this right, Paul McCartney's movie would be a rom com. John Lennon's would be a psychological dramedy. George Harrison's would be a surrealist meditation on faith, and Ringo would be Muppets.
That's so true. That's so true.
So yeah, that's what I'm more curious about too. Is it tonally going to feel like one big movie, or are they going
Mm.
to, while it's in the unique perspectives, like is one have maybe more of an internal monologue? Is one more music heavy, like more like from like are we going to be mixing things up stylistically, or is it just all going to be kind of on theme and on in that same vein?
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But guys, what are your thoughts on the four Beatles biopics going on? And is there one you're particularly looking forward to? Are you going to be watching all of them in 2028 in April?